Welcome to Beneath the Surface, the dark side of crime. In today's video, we're diving into one of the most chilling stories of deception and murder. What happens when a single lie unravels everything? Let's find out together. Chapter 1. The Lie That Started It. All location, Ravensbrück, a quaint town nestled in the rolling hills, where nature's beauty and the serenity of small-town life mask the dark currents flowing just beneath its surface. The town's main street, lined with cozy shops and cafes, is the heartbeat of Ravensbrück. Everyone knows each other by name. The smell of fresh bread wafts from Linden Bakery, and children laugh as they run across the park near Ravensbrück Elementary. But behind the sweet smells and happy faces, Maya Jennings has started noticing the subtle shift in her relationship with her fiancé, Ethan Taylor. Maya had always prided herself on her intuition. As a teacher, she had a knack for reading people, understanding their emotions before they even spoke. But with Ethan, the man she was supposed to marry, her intuition has failed her. The day starts like any other. She wakes up, makes herself a cup of coffee in the sun-drenched kitchen of their modest apartment, and waits for Ethan to come home from work. Ethan, a mechanic by trade, had always been dependable, always punctual. But today, as the clock ticks past 7 p.m., Maya's stomach tightens. The reassuring sound of the front door opening doesn't come. Instead, she's greeted by the silence that starts to fill their once warm home. She picks up the phone, her fingers trembling as she dials his number. The voice on the other end is calm, almost too calm. "I'm sorry, Maya. I had to stay late at the shop. The car broke down and it's taking longer than expected. I'll be home soon." It's not the first time he's been late, but something feels off. Maya senses it, a slight crack in his tone. She dismisses it, too caught up in the idea of making dinner for two and waiting for him to return. But, as the minutes stretch into an hour, the seed of doubt is planted. A small, seemingly insignificant lie, just a little excuse to cover up a late shift at work. But in the quiet of their apartment, where the shadows creep longer, that seed begins to grow. Maya's intuition had always been her strongest ally. As a schoolteacher, she prided herself on being able to read her students, to understand their emotions before they even spoke. But when it came to Ethan, the man she had planned her future with, her intuition had failed her. It was as though something invisible had clouded her judgment. Ethan's charm was undeniable. He was the kind of person who could make anyone feel special, the type of man who walked into a room and immediately had everyone's attention. He had made Maya feel like the center of his world, and for a long time, she believed it. But now, things felt different. The evening of Ethan's most recent late night, Maya decided to ignore her feelings of discomfort and continued preparing for their dinner. She chopped vegetables, her knife slicing through them mechanically as the thoughts whirled in her mind. He said he would be home soon. Just wait. He probably had to stay later than usual. It's nothing. She kept repeating these words, but they felt hollow. The truth lingered, just out of reach, and yet her instincts told her something wasn't right. When she finally heard his key in the lock, Maya forced a smile. Ethan entered, his usual warm demeanor fading the moment he saw her standing by the kitchen counter, waiting. His eyes met hers, but there was something there, a flicker of something dark in his gaze. Maya caught it. For a split second, the man she thought she knew became a stranger. "I'm so sorry I'm late, babe. I'll make it up to you." Ethan's smile was tight, rehearsed. It didn't reach his eyes. Maya wanted to say something, to confront him about the phone call that hadn't made sense, but the words caught in her throat. Instead, she asked about his day, as if everything was fine. Maybe it's just a phase, she thought. But deep down, she knew she was lying to herself. Chapter 2. The Web of Deception. Days pass, and the unease that Maya feels grows. Ethan's work hours become longer and more frequent. When he finally does come home, he's distant, his gaze often lost in thought, his body language closed off. Maya begins to question everything. The excuse about the car breaking down is repeated over and over. But this time, Maya can't shake the feeling that it's more than just a breakdown. She starts noticing little things: the smell of perfume on his jacket, the slight shift in his attitude when she asks him to hand over his phone. Maya becomes more observant, more attuned to the smallest changes. Her once serene mornings now start with anxiety as she waits for Ethan's daily routine to unfold. Each time he comes home late, Maya's suspicions deepen, but she refuses to confront him. Her mind races with thoughts she can't put into words. The love she has for him seems to be clouding her judgment. What if she's just imagining things? What if she's overthinking? But then, one night, as she's cleaning up in the kitchen, she sees it: a message on Ethan's phone left carelessly on the kitchen counter. The screen lights up with a single word: Rachel. Her heart skips a beat. She knows Rachel Moore, a co-worker of Ethan's at the garage, a name she's never had any reason to question. But this message, this simple text, opens a door to a truth she's unwilling to face. "I miss you. Can't wait to see you tonight." The words are innocent enough on their own, but in the context of Ethan's behavior, they're a warning. Maya's stomach tightens as a rush of realization hits her. The lie, the subtle shift in Ethan's behavior, this is something far more sinister than just a late night at the shop. The days that followed only deepened Maya's unease. Ethan's late nights became routine. His phone was always within arm's reach, but he would never let her see it. When Maya asked about his work, he would brush it off with a quick, "Nothing important," or "Same as always." His responses were vague, avoiding her probing questions. But Maya had started paying attention, noticing the subtle changes in his behavior. Maya was a woman of routine, someone who found comfort in the familiar. But Ethan had begun to erode that sense of peace. The little things she had once taken for granted: the gentle kisses on the forehead when he returned home, the way he would help her with dinner, the late-night talks, they all disappeared as his attention began to shift elsewhere. One evening, as Maya flipped through a magazine on the couch, she noticed Ethan's phone buzzing on the kitchen counter. Without thinking, she reached for it. The name on the screen made her stomach drop: Rachel Moore. Maya had always thought Rachel was a good friend, a co-worker who Ethan spoke highly of, but now her name felt like a threat. The message was simple: "Are you sure you're ready to tell her the truth?" The words sent a chill down Maya's spine. It was a subtle suggestion, but Maya could feel the weight of it. Who was he hiding the truth from? Why had he kept it a secret? Her heart raced, and she placed the phone back on the counter, but not without taking a mental note of the time: 7:35 p.m. Ethan always came home at 7:30 p.m. Tonight it was different. Her anxiety began to build, each tick of the clock counting down to the inevitable confrontation. Chapter 3. Manipulation and Control. As Maya begins to unravel the truth, Ethan's behavior shifts in an even more manipulative direction. He becomes increasingly defensive, accusing her of being paranoid and insecure. "You're imagining things, Maya. I've been nothing but honest with you," he says, but his voice is tinged with irritation. Maya feels trapped in a cycle of doubt and guilt. She wants to confront him, but when she does, Ethan's words are smooth and convincing. He convinces her that she's imagining things, playing on her fears and insecurities. "You've always been too sensitive, Maya. You know I would never do anything to hurt you." But the lies keep piling up. Every time Maya looks for answers, she's met with more manipulation, more subtle gaslighting. Ethan convinces her that she's the one with the problem, that she's the one who's destroying their relationship. He isolates her from friends and family, planting seeds of doubt in her mind. "Sophie is just trying to make you believe that I'm a bad guy. She's always been jealous of us," he tells her, further alienating Maya from the few people she has left. Rachel, too, plays her part. She continues to text Ethan, sending messages that are flirtatious and suggestive. Maya can't escape it. Every time she looks around, Ethan's lies are everywhere, trapping her in a world where she no longer knows what's real. Maya's suspicion grew, but it wasn't just about the affair. Ethan's behavior had started to change in ways she couldn't fully understand. His emotional distance, his increasing irritability, the way he would dismiss her questions. Maya felt like she was walking on eggshells. When she tried to talk to him, he would turn it around on her. "Why are you always so suspicious, Maya?" "What happened to trusting me? You're driving me crazy." The lies, though, were becoming harder to ignore. Maya wasn't the only one who had noticed the changes. Sophie Brooks, her childhood friend, had always been the voice of reason. When Maya tried to talk about it, Sophie was blunt. "Maya, I don't want to be the bearer of bad news, but I've seen how he looks at you sometimes. It's like you're a stranger to him now." Maya didn't want to hear it. She didn't want to admit that she had been blind to Ethan's deceit. So, she pulled away from Sophie, convinced that the problem lay within her own insecurities. After all, she had no real proof. But the emotional toll was starting to wear on her. She felt like a different person, fragile, uncertain, unable to trust her own judgment. Meanwhile, Ethan continued his psychological games, manipulating her thoughts, making her feel as if she were the one at fault. He would accuse her of being paranoid, say she was imagining things. Each time he gaslit her, it wore her down a little more, chipping away at the woman she once was. Chapter 4. Trust and Betrayal. One night, Maya can no longer hold back. Her instincts scream at her to face the truth, and she finally gathers the courage to confront Ethan. She finds him in the garage, wiping his hands with a rag, the faint smell of oil in the air. She stands in the doorway, holding her breath. "I know about Rachel," she says, her voice barely a whisper. Ethan's face pales, and for the briefest moment, Maya sees something shift behind his eyes. But it's gone before she can register it. "What are you talking about?" he asks, his voice cold. Maya shows him the text. She watches his face change as he tries to downplay it, trying to weave another lie. But this time, Maya is no longer fooled. She can feel the betrayal sting her heart like 1,000 needles. "You've been seeing her, haven't you? You've been lying to me, this whole time." Her voice cracks, a mix of heartbreak and rage bubbling to the surface. Ethan doesn't deny it. He just stands there, looking at her with cold eyes. "You wouldn't understand, Maya. You were never the person I needed. Rachel, she's different. You were too wrapped up in your work, your perfect little world." The betrayal cuts deeper than any knife ever could. Maya realizes in that moment that the man she loved never truly existed. The person she thought she knew, the person who promised her forever, was nothing more than a mirage, a lie she had built in her own mind. When Maya finally confronted Ethan, she expected tears, apologies, maybe even guilt. What she didn't expect was the coldness in his eyes. Ethan never looked at her the same way again. The mask had fallen, revealing the man he had truly been all along, a stranger. She had been holding on to the hope that she could salvage their relationship. But in that moment, as Ethan's voice grew colder, the truth hit her like a ton of bricks. Maya had spent years building a future with a man who didn't truly care about her. She had been living in a lie, feeding into a fantasy that Ethan had crafted for her. "Why didn't you just tell me the truth, Ethan?" Maya's voice trembled, but her resolve was hardening. "Why did you let this go on for so long?" Ethan's response was icy, detached. "Because I knew you wouldn't understand, Maya. You've never been enough. I needed something else. Rachel gave me what you couldn't." The words stung, but what hurt more was the finality in his tone. It wasn't just the affair. It was the cold dismissal of everything Maya had believed in, everything they had built together. The life she had dreamed of had never been real. It had all been a fabrication, a carefully constructed illusion. Chapter 5. The impact on society. Maya's world begins to unravel. The town of Ravensbrück, once the safe haven she had always known, turns into a place of cruel whispers and judgment. News of the affair spreads quickly. and soon everyone in the town knows. The friendly neighbor who once waved at her now avoids eye contact. The grocery store clerk, who once greeted her by name, now looks at her with pity. Her students at school start whispering behind her back. She hears the rumors, and the weight of the judgment crushes her. But what's worse is that Ethan is never fully held accountable for his actions. He continues to go about his life as if nothing happened, the betrayal and the lies continuing to fester behind closed doors. Maya, on the other hand, feels like a ghost in a town that once felt like home. She can't escape the constant reminder of Ethan's betrayal. The pressure of public judgment, the isolation, it's too much to bear. Ravensbrück had always been a town of gossip. It wasn't a large place, and everyone knew everyone else's business. Maya couldn't escape the whispers. People who had once been friendly now avoided her eyes. It wasn't just the affair they gossiped about. It was the unraveling of her personal life, the drama that had taken over her peaceful existence. Even her students, young and impressionable, seemed to notice the change in her demeanor. Maya had always been the picture of composure at school, a role model for her students. But now they saw her for what she truly was, a woman whose world had crumbled. The weight of their stares was unbearable. Ethan, on the other hand, was unfazed. He had already started distancing himself from the town's gossip, slipping into the background as if nothing had happened. The lies had worked for him. He was still the golden boy in Ravensbrück, while Maya had been reduced to a mere shadow of herself. Her isolation grew more profound with each passing day. Friends she had once trusted now hesitated to make eye contact. It wasn't just the affair, it was the feeling that Maya had been made a fool of in front of the whole town. It felt like everyone knew the truth except her. Everyone knew that Chapter 6. The breaking point. One night, Maya reaches her breaking point. The constant manipulation, the lies, the isolation, it all comes to a head. She decides to confront Ethan once and for all. She finds him at their apartment, the place that should have been their sanctuary, and demands the truth. "I can't live like this anymore. I want to know the truth, Ethan. Why did you do this?" she asks, her voice shaking. Ethan doesn't answer right away. He looks at her, his eyes distant, then mutters, "You don't understand. You never did." "I understand more than you think," Maya says, her resolve growing stronger. "I see you for who you really are now." But instead of remorse, instead of an apology, Ethan becomes defensive. "You're destroying everything, Maya. I never asked for this. You've never been there for me. You were always so wrapped up in your own world. I didn't have a choice." Ethan had chosen Rachel, and she had been left behind. The confrontation in their apartment had been the tipping point. Ethan had finally shown his true face, and Maya was done pretending that everything was fine. She had seen the darkness in him, and it scared her. For weeks, she tried to hold on to the relationship, trying to make sense of it all. But now, she understood. Ethan wasn't the man she thought he was. Her breaking point came one night when she stood in front of him, demanding the truth. Her voice trembled, but her heart was filled with a newfound strength. "I'm leaving, Ethan. This isn't love. It's manipulation. It's a game you've been playing, and I'm done being your pawn." But instead of guilt or remorse, Ethan's anger flared up. "You're pathetic, Maya. You think you're the only one hurting? You don't get it. You never did." His voice rose, sharp with venom. In that moment, Maya saw the true extent of his rage. This wasn't just about a failed relationship. This was about his pride, his ego, and the fear of losing control. She could see it now, how he had slowly and methodically broken her down. The confrontation escalated quickly. As Ethan's anger grew, so did his desperation. Maya tried to leave, but his grip tightened on her arm, forcing her to stay. His eyes were wild, and she saw the fury boiling behind them. Chapter 7. From Deception to Murder. Maya stands in front of him, the weight of her heartbreak overwhelming her. Ethan's rage boils over. He pushes her hard. She stumbles backward, crashing into the coffee table. But this time, something snaps inside Ethan. His rage takes over. Without warning, he grabs her by the shoulders, shaking her. "You're making this harder than it has to be," he growls. In the heat of the argument, he pushes her again. This time she falls down the stairs. She cries out in pain as her head hits the bottom step. Ethan stands at the top of the stairs watching her, a sick satisfaction in his eyes. But then the reality of what he's done sets in. Maya lies motionless at the bottom of the stairs. Ethan's world crumbles in an instant. Ethan's fury spilled over. Maya tried to fight back, but he was too strong, his hands gripping her shoulders, his breath hot on her face. He pushed her back, shoving her against the wall. She cried out in pain, but the sound was muffled by his fury. In a frenzy, he shoved her again, this time harder. Maya lost her footing, stumbling backward toward the stairs. Before she could react, her feet slipped from under her, and she tumbled down the stairs. The world spun as she fell, pain searing through her body with every moment. At the bottom, she lay motionless, her breath shallow and uneven. Ethan stood at the top of the stairs, staring down at her, his chest heaving. But there was no remorse in his eyes, just a dark, empty void. For a moment, time seemed to stand still. Ethan's mind raced, his thoughts spinning in a panic. He hadn't meant for this to happen. But now, as he stared at the woman he had destroyed, he realized something else. There was no going back. Chapter 8. The investigation begins. Detectives Grace Hunter and Tom Nash are called to the scene of the crime. Initially, it seems like an unfortunate accident. But Grace's keen eye catches the inconsistencies. She notices the bruises on Maya's wrists, the signs of a struggle before the fall. Interviews with family, friends, and neighbors start to paint a different picture. Ethan's lies, his manipulative behavior, they all come to light. The detectives dig deeper into his relationship with Rachel, discovering that she played a part in encouraging Ethan's escalating behavior. She had used the affair to push him further into isolation, giving him the false belief that he deserved something better than Maya. The sound of sirens filled the air, an ominous reminder that what Ethan had done could no longer be hidden. Detectives Grace Hunter and Tom Nash were experienced, but even they could sense something chilling in the air. The scene was quiet, almost too quiet. Maya's lifeless body lay at the bottom of the stairs, her skin pale, her once bright eyes closed forever. Grace crouched beside Maya's body, her sharp eyes scanning the room for any signs of a struggle. She noticed the bruises on Maya's wrists and the smudge of lipstick on the collar of her blouse. Ethan's explanation about an accidental fall seemed less convincing with every detail she uncovered. "Something's off," Grace muttered under her breath, more to herself than to Tom. Tom was busy questioning the neighbors. They all had similar stories. Ethan had been acting strangely for weeks, always on edge, always distracted. But no one had seen anything out of the ordinary that night. The apartment was eerily silent when the police arrived. Ethan had been the first to call the authorities, his voice cracking with feigned panic. "I don't know what happened," he had said. "She just slipped. I didn't mean for this to happen. She was so upset. I didn't know what to do." But there was something in his eyes when he spoke that didn't sit right with Grace. His fear felt rehearsed, too polished. It was as though he had been practicing this story, refining it in his head for hours. "He's hiding something," Grace said, standing up and looking at Tom. "I don't think it was an accident." The deeper they dug into Ethan's life, the more disturbing the story became. Neighbors, co-workers, and even close friends all confirmed the same thing. Ethan's relationship with Maya had been crumbling, and he'd grown increasingly distant. He had even begun showing signs of anger, especially toward Maya, whose gentle nature no longer seemed to satisfy him. Grace and Tom began to focus on Rachel, the woman who had been in Ethan's life for so long. They tracked down Rachel, who initially denied everything, claiming she had no involvement in Ethan's personal life. But her denial was too quick, too practiced. Rachel's alibi for the night of Maya's death was shaky at best. She had been working at the garage late, but no one could confirm her exact hours. Chapter 9. The Shocking Reveal. As the investigation continues, the detectives uncover the truth about Ethan and Rachel's involvement in Maya's death. They discover Maya's journal, which details the escalating fear and suspicion she felt in her last days. The entries reveal the truth. Maya had suspected Ethan's affair long before she confronted him. The detectives connect the dots, revealing the manipulative, toxic web that Ethan and Rachel had created. They realize that Maya was trapped, caught between two people who never cared for her and never valued her trust. The investigation quickly took a darker turn. Maya's journal, hidden under a pile of unopened letters, revealed the depths of her torment. Grace sat at her desk, flipping through the pages, each one a testament to Maya's emotional struggle. The journal was filled with Maya's pain, but there were also subtle notes that hinted at her growing suspicion about Ethan and Rachel's relationship. In one entry, Maya wrote, "I think he's lying. I've seen the way Rachel looks at him when they think I'm not looking. Something's wrong." The journal was the key. It gave the detectives an insight into Maya's thoughts just before her death. Grace read aloud a passage from the journal to Tom. "I can't keep living in the shadows. I've asked Ethan so many times about Rachel, but he always denies it. I don't know what's worse, the affair or the fact that he's lying to my face every day." Grace felt a pang of sympathy for Maya. She had been living in a nightmare, her heart constantly torn between love and betrayal. It was clear to Grace now that Ethan had been playing a dangerous game, manipulating Maya into believing she was paranoid. But Maya had suspected the truth all along. Maya had even started making plans to leave Ethan. There were sketches of apartment layouts, lists of things she needed to do to start over. But her escape had come too late. It was Rachel's betrayal that finally unlocked the mystery. Grace and Tom found out that Rachel had been having an affair with Ethan for nearly a year. Rachel's involvement was not just emotional, it was calculated. Rachel had been pushing Ethan further, egging him on to confront Maya, even telling him that Maya would never understand their love. Rachel had been the one to suggest Ethan end things with Maya for good, to cut ties and start fresh. Chapter 10. Conclusion and Reflection. Ethan is arrested for the murder of Maya. Rachel is charged for her role in pushing Ethan to the brink. The town of Ravensbrück is left shattered, with the truth now revealed. Maya's death, the result of years of deception, serves as a stark reminder of the devastating effects that lies and manipulation can have. In a place once known for its charm and beauty, a dark truth has been uncovered, one that will haunt the town forever. Ethan's arrest was inevitable. The evidence was overwhelming. Detective Grace Hunter stood in the courthouse watching as Ethan was led away in handcuffs. His once smooth exterior had cracked under the weight of his lies. The confident, charming man she had first met was now a broken figure, his fate sealed. Maya's family and friends gathered at the trial, their faces a mix of grief and disbelief. They had trusted Ethan, welcomed him into their lives, and now he had taken away the one person they loved most. Sophie, Maya's best friend, was present in the courtroom, her eyes red from days of crying. She had tried so hard to warn Maya, but now it was too late. Ethan's trial was lengthy, filled with emotional testimony from friends and family. Rachel took the stand, her voice cold and calculated as she recounted her version of events. But her lies were transparent, and it was clear to everyone in the room that she had been a willing accomplice in Maya's death. Maya's parents, who had always hoped for a peaceful life for their daughter, now stood in the wake of her death, devastated by the loss. Their grief was palpable, but they knew there was nothing they could do to bring her back. The sentencing came soon after, and Ethan was convicted of first-degree murder. He would spend the rest of his life behind bars. Rachel was sentenced to a lesser charge, accessory to murder, and received a lengthy prison sentence as well. But for Maya's family, the sentence was never enough. The years of lies, the manipulation, the psychological torment, none of it would ever bring their daughter back. Thank you for watching Beneath the Surface, the Dark Side of Crime. If you've ever experienced betrayal or witnessed the devastating effects of deception, share your thoughts and stories in the comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and click the bell icon for more true crime stories that uncover the darkest corners of our society. Stay tuned for our next deep dive into the chilling truth that lies beneath the surface.